Okay, I'm Natalie Jeremijenko, and I run the Environmental Health Clinic at NYU and actually 16 other cities and initiatives that organizations that provide a space where anyone can come, like a health clinic. People walk in with their environmental health concerns as opposed to their medical health concerns, and they walk out with prescriptions not for pharmaceuticals but for things they can do to help their local urban environment. So it's a way to organize participatory and playful and spectacular strategies to really measurably improve our environmental health, because I think if we design to improve environmental health, that's the best proxy and best metric of the common good.
So we're at a conference here about wood and how wood is integrated into sustainable systems, and obviously your work has a lot of connections with that. But I'd like to know what drew you to this conference in particular. What was it that made you come all the way out to the Bronx Zoo today on this lovely Friday?
All the way. For me, not so far.
Okay.
But this is part of my neighborhood, and I run something called the Bronx Ooze, which is very similar to the Bronx Zoo, but
cool.
But it's about creating urban habitat that for non-human urban residents that aren't in cages. So I feel like I'm doing the same project, the next version, the Zoo 2.0, if you will. So this feels like home. And I feel like Scott's Brooklyn Bridge project is an example of the systems design that I also, we're in the same school, I would say. We're part of a small, but I would argue powerful movement, and I was interested to see the researchers that he's collected around here. I currently have many tree projects that really are around making sense of trees. So Mass Mocha, I have a large installation of trees doing gymnastics in a slow but quite spectacular way. I have a project in San Francisco Bay Area where I have paradox trees, which are an F1 hybrid between a walnut, a native Californian black walnut, and an English walnut. And these are genetically identical trees that are planted in pairs around the San Francisco Bay Area so that we can see the difference between the pairs and within the pairs. And of course the divergence is extraordinary, even in the same site. So making sense of the trees, like why do they look different, is a really interesting and long-term research project. Then integrating significant forests into the urban environment. I've designed my first mega infrastructure for the tropical region that extends to temperate zones that couples closely urban waste streams of cellulosic waste and food, waste food into generating clean energy, but also generating biochar and anaerobic digest as soil building technology. So I'm currently building some X-kitchens. So that's actually looking at this, the tremendous value of the cellulosic, as soil building, forest building. Because in the tropics, I'm starting with the tropics because the only limit to growth in Malaysia and Penang Hill, where I'm currently working, a tree can grow there 5 years, 75 feet, right? It's the most productive ecosystem in the world, and yet, it's not limited by solar resources. It's not limited by precipitation. It's only limited by soil nutrients, and they're right beside, an unlimited supply of cellulosic waste and Vogue magazines and dissertations and other things that can very easily couple into these X-kitchens. So designing urban systems that take the mutualistic relationship with trees very seriously and address the challenges of the 21st century is what I'm doing, and I think that's what this conference is about.
So cool. Wow, that's really inspiring and interesting work.
Thank you.
And so I think a lot of people who are here share one thing in that they're passionate about trees or about wood or about forests or about all three, and that really comes through. And I was wondering, in your case, why trees, why forests, why does that fascinate you?
It's interesting. A lot of people ask me this because I currently have a project called Tree Office, which is an office in a tree, of course.
That's great.
And I hope to develop a tree office park just near here, actually. And this is, has high-speed internet, locally generated power, pyrolytic power generators. But the conceit is it's owned and operated by the tree, and the tree profits from the co-working fees. You pay the tree will text you if you're late on your dues. I'm not going anywhere till you pay up. Right? I've been acting as the Lorax for the trees, and translating into tweets so there's currently a tree office in Shoreditch, in Oxton Square in London, I've done one in Berlin, one in New York, doing a couple in Melbourne, and this gives an opportunity for people to hang out in trees, right? Which turns out to be the best office in the world, right? It's really, and it challenges us to really reimagine our relationship to natural systems and redesign that relationship. We have laptops and cell phones, and there's no reason why we have to sit inside very conventional forms of cubicles or architecture. And it also extends this idea of rights of nature, which makes sense to a lot of people, right? And it certainly makes sense to me, which is very different from the environmental services model and the technocratic imagination of valuing the trees for all the services they provide. So, a New York City street tree for 80 years of service is valued at $400 for the carbon sequestering and stormwater retention and energy savings from shade. $400 is not my sense of value of a tree at all, right? And, I've never found anyone who says, oh yeah, that sounds right to me. No, right? The tree that I did in New York City in Socrates Sculpture Park had just 40 people paying $25 a month memberships. It was generating $1,000 a month just because we had extended rights to the tree, right, instead of property rights in this case. And so it became, it's a real idea, and coming up to COP21, where I would argue that we've come to the end of the great age of environmental regulation as a paradigm, where carbon trading and markets for carbon haven't really taken off in the way that, all our lovely technocratic economists promised, and yet we have a responsibility to redesign our systems that is in accord with our pleasure and our desire. So for me, working on a tree is preferable to working anywhere else, and the legal implications of that sense-making structure, of this rights of nature, of which there's many indigenous groups that see it as makes perfect sense. If we can have rights, a tree can have rights, a river can have rights, and of course that means that the strange, weird, thing that now if a mining company trashes a river, they have to find some farmer who can prove damages to their livelihood, and then they can sue to get, whereas if the river itself had rights, they could sue on their own behalf. So it fits into the legal infrastructure. And so I think this, why trees is, trees are fascinating. They are the model of our knowledge structure, our data structures. In fact, the tree office in Hoxton, I have a little startup that's just called Tree Cloud Data Storage. So the tree is extending another service in addition to the office space, which is cloud data service. And this is a data storage that's indexed actually to the leaf area index of the tree. So if we want to increase the capacity of the data storage, if we want to increase the capacity of the data storage, we increase the leaf area index, which is the fundamental predictor of human health effects and of our urban environment. So coupling the fastest growing digital industry to leaf area index, the most potent human health determinant, is what I'm doing with that project. And I think this is why trees. This is why I'm here.
That's so cool.